The sheer gravity that Luka and LeBron provide is flat out overwhelming for opposing defenses to put up with, and we saw it more recently against one of the league's best defensive teams in the Houston Rockets. Let's get to the clips. The Houston Rockets find themselves guarding a pick and roll, and you got Şengün on Dorian Finney-Smith. We got Amen Thompson, who is exactly the guy you want, on Luka Doncic in this scenario. He is obviously going to try to ice this pick and roll, right? Fight over. You got Şengün in a drop, right? Kind of guiding him to the sideline, like we talked about on a couple of videos ago with the Draymond Green one. And pretty good screen. Amen Thompson just always does a good job of thinning himself out and getting around them. He actually ends up lagging a little bit behind Luka, kind of potentially waiting to see if he makes that pass. Şengün is forced to stay longer because Amen Thompson is obviously behind Luka at this point in time, and Luka just does such a good job of probing. When you get by that guy, when your screener is able to block off the on-ball defender and they fight over, you don't always have to just do something right away. And Luka probing and holding and just keeping that live dribble, it constantly puts pressure on the rest of the defense, the help defenders. Like, Şengün is pointing for Amen Thompson to get out on Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, I think Amen Thompson kind of overstayed, and Luka just does a good job of, okay, cool, you're going to double, here's the open teammate, and that's it, right? Like, these are the open looks that the other Lakers constantly find, and that's a made three for Dorian Finney-Smith. Here's another example of that gravity. High pick and roll with Luka and Hachimura, and they got Fred VanVleet just fighting over it. They're kind of also trying to ice it again, trying to force him to that sideline, keep him away from the middle. And look, Luka, again, probing, keeping that dribble alive, knowing that he can get by Şengün, knowing he's got VanVleet on his back. He is waiting to see if they're going to stay with him on this drive, he's going to make the kick out. And here it is again. There is the wide open Hachimura top of the key three. With plenty of time to load up, you got Fred VanVleet, a smaller player, closing out on you. This is just the most ideal look. And it's a miss, but good quality offense right there. Here's another high pick and roll. This time it's Jackson Hayes, who Luka obviously absolutely loves to run pick and rolls with, because when you have that lob threat and teams are going to try to put two on the ball, like blitz the ball screen to kind of take the ball out of the ball handler's hands, if the ball handler is able to find the roller on the slip and he's a lob threat type of player, a guy that plays above the rim like Jackson Hayes, if you're not tagging that, he's going to dunk that. If you're tagging it away from a shooter because obviously your team is trapping up top, you're already at a numbers disadvantage, that's going to allow a kick out three. And Luka's so elite at making it look like he's going to throw the lob, but oftentimes he makes that skip pass, and it's the perfect angle because since Steven Adams is a drop coverage big and Amen Thompson is kind of fighting to get back into the play, now it's on either Jalen Green or Jabari Smith Jr. to kind of plug that potential lob. And that means leaving a shooter, right? In this case, are you going to leave Dorian Finney-Smith, who just made a three? Are you going to leave Gabe Vincent, who I don't think made a three yet up until this point? And there's the skip pass. It looks like a lob pass because of just the runway that Jackson Hayes has. And honestly, Luka probably could have thrown that one too. But Jalen Green tags it, and Luka just makes immediate decisions. And he made the right one in this scenario. The skip pass, it's a corner three for Gabe Vincent, and it's cash money. So now we get to the next play, and here's another high pick and roll with Jackson Hayes. Luka takes it, going right this time. Amen Thompson obviously fighting over and staying along with him. Steven Adams in that drop coverage, obviously worried about the lob. He's also worried about the potential floater by Luka, the drive. You got Tari Eason in the back, you know, kind of ready to help out, obviously, to plug on that drive. You also got Jabari Smith Jr. This is what makes the Rockets just such a great defensive team. Look at that back line. Like, these are some lanky, athletic, you know, good shot contesting guys that really get after it. And Luka knows this, right? And look, there's another kind of little pass that makes it look like it may go to Jackson Hayes, but instead it goes to a pop-out Austin Reeves. And now Jabari Smith Jr. has to play two in this scenario because of that potential lob that they're trying to help Steven Adams with. And there's Austin Reeves making the quick extra pass, and there's an open three for Gabe Vincent again. When you miss a shot against the Lakers, you better get back in transition, because you're dealing with either Luka bringing it up the floor and potentially killing you with a one-man fast break stuff. You got LeBron, who also loves to play in transition. You have Austin Reeves, who also can bring it up and get to that paint. There's just a lot of weapons that you're dealing with if you miss a shot and the Lakers are in transition. And here's Luka, high pick and roll again on the side with Jackson Hayes. He takes it, very strong screen there. Now he's got Hayes on the roll and keeping that dribble alive, right? Luka just, again, elite. Keep just probing, right? Seeing what the defense is going to be doing. Look at Dylan Brooks cheating to just help plug on that potential lob, right? Also help on the potential baseline run. They call that gnashing. And look at this. This is 3 defenders from Houston, just all over Luka at this point. All eyes on him. And Luka with the elite stop and go. And he stops in his tracks to draw the foul, and it's an and one little floater. Now, in this scenario, Steven Adams finds himself early on LeBron. And what the Rockets will do in this scenario is try to put 2 on the ball to kind of take away that advantage, make LeBron kind of come off the ball, find a read, and then Houston will kind of readjust. So here's obviously Jalen Green showing, right? But the problem with this is you're giving LeBron the decision to play with 2 people on the ball. Like, you're putting 2 defenders on him. Okay, he's gonna find the next guy, and you better be in rotation. You better be in a really good spot to rotate. And obviously the Houston Rockets, one of the best defenses in the league, they end up being able to recover at the end of this play. But here's Austin Reeves making that next play, right? There's Dorian Finney-Smith, who honestly probably should have taken this 3 or maybe even got to the basket along the baseline, because Fred VanVleet, really small defender closing out on him. But shout out to Dorian Finney-Smith. He's just continuing to make the dominoes fall, right? Makes the next play, plays off 2 feet, gets a paint touch, kicks it out to Luka. Luka with the nice little immediate behind the back pass. And look, man, Steven Adams, he is all over this one. Houston Rockets recovered really well after putting 2 on the ball. The only problem with this is Gabe Vincent's already made a couple of threes in the corners. So he's already feeling it at this point, and it's another corner 3 for Gabe. And just like, you know, Luka and LeBron just constantly make the right decisions, they're also going to do some incredible things. And here is Luka, right? They try to put 2 on the ball, right? Looking to trap him there on that side. There's Şengün showing really hard, and Luka just doing Luka things. Now, this situation is really important because Şengün is trailing on this play. So he's going to have to pick up whoever he can. Houston is just going to try to pick up as many people as possible to deny, obviously, any runs to the rim. Look at LeBron in transition here off the ball. Luka's kind of pointing in that direction. And here's the defense communicating, right? Amen Thompson picks up LeBron immediately, right? You got Fred VanVleet obviously worried about the corner man. And then Şengün is like, well, I guess I got Luka at the 3-point line, right? And Luka more than loves this scenario, right? He's got a slower footed center, which once he gets by this guy, Houston's going to have to help hard, or Luka's just going to get to the rim for free, right? And this is the nice little crossover that almost sends Şengün to the floor. And there's that help defense, right? To help Şengün recover. Doncic just splits that, gets through, and makes the corner pass to Dorian Finney-Smith. Shout out to Dylan Brooks. Right there, right on time, ready for the contest. But, you know, just already feeling it at this point in the game. Nice little corner 3 from Dorian Finney-Smith. This one is a very interesting situation because you see Fred VanVleet, he finds himself on LeBron. This is obviously a major mismatch. And Fred VanVleet, obviously really smart. He constantly looks for ways to kind of pre-switch away and take away advantages. He obviously points to Şengün, tells Şengün to take LeBron, right? And at this point, Fred VanVleet's going to have to find a guy to cover. So Fred VanVleet makes an early decision with Şengün. That ends up allowing him to get to Luka on time on this switch. But obviously, Fred VanVleet just doesn't have the size, the length to bother a jump pass from Luka. And here is Jackson Hayes on the roll, and it's an and one dunk. Here's a similar scenario. high pick and roll here between Jackson Hayes and Luka Doncic. And look at Fred VanVleet. He's on LeBron, right? With no one to be able to pre-switch away. And so this is obviously, it's going to be a lob for Jackson Hayes. And Luka makes the nice little soft touch pass. Good job by Şengün getting a hand on that ball to obviously force Jackson Hayes to come back down with it. Hayes sees that he's obviously being tagged by another help defender in Fred VanVleet. And honestly, I think Fred VanVleet should have stayed home because Şengün was already in a pretty damn good spot to contest a guy that doesn't really have good back to the basket moves. Obviously, Jackson Hayes makes the right pass, and now Fred VanVleet is forced to close out on LeBron, undersized, and that's just him shooting over the chair. Another side pick and roll between Luka and Dorian Finney-Smith, and obviously in this scenario, it's the same thing you're seeing. They're going to ice it. They're going to try to force him to the sideline. Luka makes a quick little pass behind his back to Dorian Finney-Smith, and in this entire play, look at Dillon Brooks playing in the gaps, right? Like, he's guarding two in this scenario because they're icing Luka on that pick and roll. So Brooks is now having to guard LeBron and Dorian Finney-Smith. Now, as soon as Finn catches this pass, Dillon Brooks is up on that, kind of ready in case he decides to pass it back to LeBron. And good job by Dorian Finney-Smith. He takes that dribble like he's ready to load up for the three. This is what makes Dillon Brooks one of the best defenders in the NBA as well. And that's just his ability to recover, right? Like, look at this. He's guarding two right now. He was able to get back to LeBron, and obviously you can only do so much. It's 2-on-1 up top, and LeBron doesn't wait a second before he whips it back to Dorian Finney-Smith, and it's a free open three again. Here is just obvious mismatches that, you know, LeBron and Luka will find themselves in, because if you don't have a lot of good defenders, which obviously the Rockets have a lot of good defenders, there are times where you may not have your best defender on Luka or even LeBron. And in this scenario, here's Fred VanVleet trying to guard Luka on this post-up and scores again over the smaller Fred VanVleet. Here's LeBron in transition, like I mentioned earlier in the video, just an absolute problem. And if you don't have the size to deal with LeBron, you're gonna have to send help to stop him in transition. You know, LeBron is among the league's best in fast break scoring, and he's been that for a very long time. He's actually third in fast break points right now at 4.8 points per game. A dude that loves to get out and run. And obviously Houston understands this. And look, Dillon Brooks doing his absolute best, but LeBron's just too big, too skilled, and there's the finish. So we're dealing with LeBron in transition. Here is Luka in transition, and look at the attention that Luka commands, right? Like, there are two Houston Rockets defenders on him right now, just really trying their best to get the ball out of his hands or stop him in transition. Now, Dorian Finney-Smith does a great job. He understands. He's played with Luka for a long time. Just keep moving, right? Keep going. And Luka makes the immediate read, and this forces the defense to continue to continue to put guys on the ball. And he draws multiple defenders again, and there's a Gabe Vincent corner three. Good job by Steven Adams. I'm actually impressed with Steven Adams' ability to get there all the way from the paint. Look at where Steven Adams is on that catch point for Gabe Vincent, and he ends up right there for the shot. That was really impressive by Steven Adams. Here's Reeves now, right, in transition, another guy that's very aggressive, and they find a nice advantageous post-up, right, for LeBron. Another mismatch with Fred VanVleet, similar to that Luka play earlier. LeBron kicks it back out to Reeves to kind of see if Dillon Brooks is going to go out and contest or let Reeves shoot it. And Dillon Brooks goes out to contest it, of course. Reeves doesn't waste any time, passes it right back to LeBron, and easy little finish under the rim. Here's a high pick and roll with Hachimura. Nice little screen there. Amen Thompson staying in the play, and again, two on the ball. And up to this point, Luka has made the right pass almost every single time, which means the defense has a tough decision to make. Are we going to stay home and see what Luka does with the ball? Or are we going to cheat away again and try to plug and try to take a stab at the ball and let Luka make another great pass and allow another Laker to cash another three? It's a very hard decision to make, and it's why when you're such a great playmaker like Luka or LeBron, these are guys that constantly make the right decisions. Sometimes it allows them easy little layups like this one. Like, look at this little walk-up layup, right? not crazy, not difficult, and it's because guys have to stay home. Here's LeBron on the catch, right? Reading the floor, and Şengün pointing to Jabari Smith Jr. to pick up LeBron so he can switch out back to Dorian Finney-Smith. And I'm not sure about the positioning with Jabari Smith Jr. here. Like, it looks like obviously he's denying the pass to Dorian, but I just don't like him giving a runway to LeBron. And look at all these eyes, right? You got Fred VanVleet watching LeBron, thinking about maybe taking a stab at the ball. You got obviously Jabari Smith Jr. completely open here. I really don't like his angle here. And obviously Şengün is there ready to plug on that drive. You got Dillon Brooks staring at LeBron to see where he's going to go with it because he's worried about the blow by. And look, LeBron, man, again, jump pass. Dillon Brooks has the closest angle to it, but because Dillon Brooks was stuck kind of ball watching, worried about the penetration by LeBron, that there's a free little dunk for Hachimura. I apologize for the quality on this one. I recorded it with my phone, but this was just a really smart play as well. And look, they're trying to inbound this ball. Houston is going to try their best to either come up with a steal, maybe force a jump ball without fouling for as long as they can before they have to foul if time is obviously expiring. And look, man, Luka gets it to Dorian Finney-Smith on an insane pass here. It's almost a backcourt violation. And Finn catches it, and there is probably one of the scariest traps you're going to see. You got Jabari Smith Jr., lanky defender, and you got just the monster, Amen Thompson himself, on the side here in a perfect trapping spot. And LeBron reads this immediately. Now, do I think that they got away with the timeout call? Yes, I think this was so close that it should have been a jump ball call. That's just my opinion. But LeBron, very smart, right? Calls the timeout, and they give the timeout to the Lakers. LeBron gets fouled later on in this game, and clutch free throws. Makes both. And now the Lakers are obviously in a great position to run away with this game. And I wanted to show offense only in this video, but I couldn't help myself but to show the clutch block by LeBron helping. Because obviously Reeves gets switched onto Alperen Şengün here. Nice little entry pass by Dillon Brooks. Really would have liked to see Luka at least put his hands up. But Şengün catches it, and LeBron already knows the read, right? Like, they're up 4. So he can concede the 3, right? He's not worried about that 3. And he's just going to come help, right? Force a kick out. He knows that this Şengün layup over Reeves is pretty much 100%, right? Like, I don't think that Şengün misses this layup over Austin Reeves. And LeBron just cheats over and times the block perfectly, and there it is. The constant good decisions by LeBron, by Luka, by Austin Reeves, by Dorian Finney-Smith, even by Gabe Vincent and Hachimura, it gets passed along, right? Like, it's contagious when you have guys constantly making the right reads, the right passes, and now your entire team becomes a threat because everyone is in sync making the right decisions. And that's what makes this Lakers offense, though still questionable in terms of the shot making ability from some of the guys that, we probably don't expect to be cashing a lot of shots, but they're going to be a problem to deal with in the playoffs.